Hello everybody, and it's here. So the idea of this video series was about creating a concept inside Blender. It's not super polished concept. I'm going later to either do topology with flow or maybe use plasticity to do the CAD model. But I will try to share in this time lapse the kind of my thought process and what tools I used. And I didn't really use any plugins. It's pretty much straightforward modeling inside Blender. So let's get started and check it out. So here I started with the essentially a human figure for the reference, and I have a different video on how I pose it in Marvelous Designer, and there's a link up top if you want to check it out. Essentially, if you have a trial version of Marvelous Designer, you can get it all done and export it for free, or maybe you have a full commercial version of Marvelous Designer, who knows, but either way, it's not hard at all. It's like a 6-minute tutorial, so pretty straightforward. And now what I'm doing here, I'm just building a capsule. So I really didn't have much of an idea what I'm going to do. I wanted just to start bit by bit by having this capsule. And you can see what I have here. I cut the half of it and mirrored it across. And then I'm using the bevel modifier on top to create the bevel that is non-destructive bevel that I can regulate on the fly. And you can see I'm changing the bevel weight to check how much bevel I have, and just trying to do some kind of streamlined capsule. And this is kind of also just thinking what I want to create, and there was kind of very little preparation for this. I didn't have any sketches or anything. I was just going by the flow, by the feel. So it did take me a while to do this concept, and in my idea, just wanted to have something futuristic, fairly kind of aggressive, and I'm thinking about just like a one-seater performance, like sports vehicle. So, and here I've created another box. So that box will be essentially the car body for the rest of the video. And it stayed like that. So just mirrored it across, and now I will start to use the knife tool to cut through, create some loops here and there, and shape it. Yeah. And at the start I was kind of doing more like a shape study, of just trying to figure out what can I what I want to see, what will look good. And all. And at the beginning, I was thinking that I wanted to do this kind of have kind of like a almost a retractable capsule inside the vehicle. So you have this passenger capsule, and then everything else is built around it. And I was even considering if I wanted to do like a flyer vehicle without any wheels, but I decided to go with the wheels more for the challenge, because the wheels and they create an extra layer of challenge, because you have to deal with the arches of the wheel. If a flyer would have been easier to do, but say if I wanted to do just a practice or a form study, I would probably wouldn't bother doing the wheels. I would just make some kind of fluid shapes of a flyer vehicle, or maybe I'll do it in the future. So that will just cut down the development time and make it faster. So here you can see I'm just playing with the shape of the capsule, how changing the angle of it. Is it more like a teardrop shape or less like a teardrop shape? And playing with the bevel weights everywhere. So I got my blockout body. So now I essentially scaled down the capsule so to make it a bit more streamlined. And so, and here I decided to go, I really wanted to do some little winglets, not a proper spoiler, but just little winglets on the sides. And and this is the original part, but I played with the shape a lot, and in the end I went for a really simple triangle shape. But here I'm just starting out with this extrusion. And later, originally I thought to keep them as a part of the body, but later I actually detached them and they became separate billets. So you can see here the body was kind of penetrating the capsule, so I decided to lay the person down. Uh, uh, and in the sports vehicle, they can be in all kind of funny positions there, almost like horizontal positions driving the vehicle. And the sports vehicles are kind of more fun to do because you have a lot more freedom with the shapes. If you're doing a passenger vehicle, passenger car, there's a lot more of that car has to be occupied with the actual volume of where people want to see it and move around. So you're quite a bit more limited. But with the concept car, you can kind of almost do whatever you want and do really aggressive big shapes versus just like trying to describe like a blob if you're doing a passenger car, if I put it really simply. And I'm kind of thinking ahead. Maybe I could use it do like a little game prototype in Unreal, make it run there, or just do a video in Blender or Unreal, little like car animation, and there could be a couple vehicles that could be uh, just like different, all different style, but all of them being this modern and aggressive look, all having this really modern aggressive look. I do have like a ton of images that I've got from Pinterest of of the different concepts. I check with concepts. I also don't want to make my vehicle to look like anything that I've seen before. And to be to me, the worst thing I can hear is like when people tell me, "Oh, it looks like that thing that's a Nissan, or it looks like a Audi." That would be like really quite annoying. I want my vehicle to look like something nobody has seen, so they don't have a point of reference to tell me that it looks like something they've seen already. It's usually not a compliment. I want to create an original design. So here I'm actually a bit procrastinating working on that capsule even a little bit too much, just because I was still thinking and struggling about the body. I was like, definitely the body like looks like just like a cube, and I was like, how do I solve this cube, and what do I really want to see? So while I'm doing that, I'm just like playing around with the shape of the capsule. And again, yeah, like I was saying, I have a ton of reference on my second screen, and actually have even I have another window with Blender, just looking at the vehicle from one particular from the front view, just so every now and then I can take a look. If I'm working on the back of the car, I can take a look at the front on my second screen. Or if I'm working on the side of the car, I can take a look at the front again on the second screen. It really helps. I can pretty much I can do a third screen as well. Like I'm using a monitor and my second screen, but I can put a tablet. I have a Samsung tablet, but I use works really quite well um, uh, with Windows as a third screen. So trying to identify some lines and some of the kind of corners that actually stayed for pretty long time. So I made this kind of really sharp corner on the front, which later I will remove because it's not really aerodynamic. But again, look kind of cool as if it were to be a flyer. But later on, I decided to remove it. Just isolating the body, removing some of the parts that were just getting in the way. And now I have bevel modifier applied as well to the body, so now I can start working on rounding some parts. Uh, Bevel modifier kind of tends to stop working if you have edges coming too close together. So it's good until a certain amount of polygons really on the shape. So I duplicated the mesh and I created this kind of, there's probably a name there, how is it? The intake, I guess, at the bottom. So I'm creating a lot of angons. Don't really care about the topology. So it's really just trying to work with the minimum amount of polygons to get the maximum results, the best looks. So I got this kind of aerodynamic intake. And I think one of the mistakes I did here, I should have put the wheels there from the get-go. And have the wheels to help me guide the design. And here I'm just doing like a front light, just some kind of LED lighting. Same thing here, just getting a few lights happening. So using a bevel modifier to bevel the sharp edges ever so slightly. And creating the like bright emissive lights. So that otherwise they just had some plain gray material, which wasn't cool. The top headlights didn't actually made it. I changed them, but it's essentially the process of trying to figure out how this vehicle should look like. And the headlights design kind of helps to establish the mood and the overall feel. All right, so here we go. I finally added the wheels. So you can see I had 64 divisions on the wheels. For the wheels, 64, 128 divisions, polygon count is fine. For the arches, I didn't go with 64, I went with 32. Just easier to deal. I didn't want to have a too high poly count on the body, but I'm perfectly fine having a lot of polygons on the wheels to make them as round as possible. One of the things that I did here is that, which I was fixing later, the body is a bit too short. So if you count the wheels, there's like distance between these wheels is by maybe like 2 wheels at best, but I wanted to make it more extended, 3 wheels, or at least like 2.5 wheels in distance between them. So later on, I actually made it elongated the body later on, and doing the back part here, just duplicating those cylinders across. So here I wasn't starting to shape up a little bit wasn't too happy still, but at least I could see, I could see a way to keep going. I could see some lines shaping up that I could work on. So you can see here, I'm just extending the body, and I think I maybe extended it even longer later. So now I'm starting to add trying to make it a bit more streamlined. I'll also like some of the parts I would then drop to a collection called the backup collection. So if something that I created like a light or some shape, or I want to do a drastic modification to the body, I will duplicate the body, put it in the backup hidden collection, and then start working on the on the copy. So it kind of saves time if I need to bring stuff, if I make a mistake and I need to bring stuff back. I don't need to use the some kind of old save or auto save. I can just bring in, I can get an element from my backup. And since everything here is quite low poly, it's not really increasing the file size at all. You can see here I'm just working on the back shape. Here I was definitely seeing, I was starting to see the shape of the vehicle, because before that I was just really struggling to to find any direction, and I was playing with shapes. So I think wheels helped quite a bit to identify the design. And trying to make the like front intake a little bit more interesting. I really like that push that I've created, that little on the bottom intake. And now I'm trying to make a material look a bit nicer. So I'm just using a metallic, green metallic. Don't know why, but I really liked black and green in this case. And I kept it essentially until the end. I tried different color combinations. Yeah, I mean, black, say, and yellow. I mean, black would work with almost any color there. Could have been a blue, but I enjoyed the green color and I decided to stick to it. And I'm thinking, like, if I'm going to do a collection of vehicles, I would go probably some kind of. I'll go for golden color. I'll go for red, orange. So I have this lighting, in the EV lighting, it is like super basic. Honestly, I, I was, to be honest, I'm really happy with that, like HDRI lighting that Blender gives by default. Like, like, like really having the materials look so nice is a kind of game changer. If everything looks great, say, because I was and still am a big Maya user, and Maya's viewport is so horrible. It's like it really doesn't help you to feel good about your designs. And here I am just, I have a really nice shading. It looks really cool. So even with like this simple shape that I've developed at this stage, I was already looking at it. I was quite proud of myself. I'm like, okay, this is looking cool. But if it were to be a shape like that inside mine, it wouldn't look any good. It would have looked pretty bad, and it would have been much harder to design stuff. So I'm doing the uh, back exhaust kind of air exhaust. Not really an exhaust. I really need to read up on names of the different parts of the vehicles. I think you can tell me how it's called in the comments. The outtake. I definitely need to read up a bit more on car aerodynamics for these performance vehicles. I read a book on Formula One engineering. It was quite interesting, and I do study different vehicles, how they look, and because you have to figure out where the cold air goes in, where the hot air goes out. But also here, I'm not so picky about it since idea is really having some kind of really like an EV vehicle, electric vehicle that's more the aim for it is to look great in a game, really, not to be really practical. So I'm starting to shape this up a bit more and more, adding more geometry, redrawing some edge loops. And with this shading, I have auto smooth on, and I think I have weighted normals as well. You can actually see the shadings on the right. Uh, you get some happy like accidents as well. That's what I'm talking about. It's like shading so cool that you can play around with the shape and just seeing how it reflects gives you an idea if it's looking good, if it's looking better or not. Just trying to figure out a nice shape for the air outtake. There'll be a lot of kind of this fiddling around, just moving stuff, checking how it reflects, how it's looking good, not looking good. Just constant thinking, trying. Uh, and, and also, if you look for videos on YouTube looking for car designs in Blender, there are a couple. My approach is a bit different from what I've seen from other people. I don't try to do a subdivision model with creasing because that limits you a little bit. I wanted to have more like a broken down model, like a broken parts with simple shading. But I wanted to have super sharp elements available. So I really wanted to have this modern fuse of smooth surfacing with really sharp angles, sharp breaks that I was like really aggressive if I wanted to do. While with if I were to do like a subdivision model with creasing, it has to think more about topology a little bit more, and it's applicable for different type of design. But in my case, I thought it wouldn't have been a faster way to design stuff if we had a subdivision cage. You can Google it on YouTube. Just concept design vehicle in in Blender, a couple of videos. Originally, I thought I would have the spinlets been thick, but then I made them skinny, and I really enjoyed the look. And I decided, okay, I'll just keep them super skinny. Decided to do an intake at the back wheel. And that original idea there kind of gave me a lot of trouble down the line. But in a way, I could even say that if I were to work with a client, I could already send it to a client that's like uh, has the feel uh, um, of the vehicle. Is like a lot of the stuff here is telling about the final picture and doing like the bottom skirt type thing. And modern vehicles, there's a lot about materials, a lot about layering of different materials. So, and we're talking about uh, not just colors, but the roughness. So, I will have black, which is glossy. For the capsule, I have black, which is quite matte for like plastic parts, or metallic black, which is also not glossy for some disc parts. And I really wanted to have this little inlet at the bottom. So that triangle at the front was starting like they have really powerful triangle on the bumper. Was quite definitive guide. So I wanted to repeat the triangle along the vehicle. I didn't want to make it the same triangle. It doesn't have to be exactly the same triangle. It can be different shape. So just that kind of sharp, powerful braking. I really like the shape brake which you have. You have a bit of a round shape coming to a sharp triangle brake. I really like that. So uh, I decided to keep it and multiply it along the vehicle itself. So the winlets at the top later became just triangles. So at the moment they're a bit more divided, but later they became triangled. So essentially here I'm using different materials, the black material to help me to design the vehicle. For me, it's funny because I'm looking back at this time lapse now. I Some of these ideas get got lost in the final model. I almost feel sorry about it. Like the the back vehicle, back wheel intake was a there was a problem there. I spent a lot of time working on that. Can't get the right design that I would enjoy. This part I really like. That's bringing the middle part in and making this kind of round bulge, a bulge shape in the middle. That part I was really happy about. Again, because what I enjoyed about it is like this, you have this round, massive round shape in the middle. That's I had this contrasty, sharp shapes on other parts of the vehicle. And then finally, like rounded up the front arches. Yeah, so here I can. This was the part was kind of debatable. I decided to make the vehicle longer because I felt like maybe these wheels were giving it a bit of a cartoony look. It was like looked like a bit of like a bulldog, bulldog dog. But also I kind of liked it, but it was a tough decision. I decided to make it longer in the end. So originally I thought about having an intake in the back, having like really sharp shapes there, like just like a boxy, super boxy look in the back. And I tried to keep it for the longest time. But just didn't sit with me right in the end, and I tried to make that boxy shape in the back to adhere to design more in the end, but that was more like much later. So I'm creating some discs, just something to be there. And you'll see here, I'm constantly duplicating parts of the vehicle because they already have modifiers on. I can really easily just have my mirror modifier set it up. I have the solidify set up, bevel modifier there, so everything's already ready to go. So I just need to only duplicate it to remove the polygons I don't need. Sometimes you can see I remove like everything, uh, but that's just fine. I can see here I beveled the body, and the shading as it was, like a smooth shading, was pretty good, so I didn't need to bevel anything. So and again, I try to go as crazy low poly as possible. Just trying to do kind of like a hole in a tire. And now I need to kind of essentially penetrate through the body of the vehicle. So the body now has a Boolean modifier set at fast. Fast is much faster, and that collection. So I created the collection for the wheel. I'm just trying to resolve this look. So, and you can see one of the shading artifacts kind of happened after Boolean, but you can see this really cool break from a super sharp area in the middle to uh, to smooth on the left. But okay, this time I'm actually working on the disc, and the disc. To be honest, I don't really like working on the discs. So the way I created started with a cube with the peel point in the middle, and I've just created a whole bunch of instances, Alt D, at like rotating it by like 45 degrees each one of them. And then we have like a whole like 8 instances, and super easy to work with and design a disk. And I don't really like working on the disks because it's so easy to make so many designs, like, and it's so hard to find one design that you think, oh, this is definitely you like. I mean, I can do like 50 designs which I like, and I want to use all of them, but yeah, you just keep playing and playing. A couple of years ago, I did a tutorial and it's how I was doing a vehicle design in 3D code. And if you're really curious, there's a link up top or in the description. And there I spent like 2 or 3 days just on the disks. So I did in 3D code. It also has a lot of flexibility with disk design. I will just keep doing. Never been happy enough with the disk shape. Again, once software gives you an easy way of creating this stuff, you start making many. So I had this aggressive look right for the vehicle, so thinking I really wanted to go with fairly aggressive like disc shape. And I'll play with this bevel, but now I use the bevel modifier. It didn't look good. So we have this kind of origami look of folded paper, but since we have a metallic material on top of it, it doesn't look like origami per se. And to be honest, I worked on the wheel, on the discs throughout the car. It changed a little bit here and there. You can see here I did a little extrusion. I really needed to add more geometry to the part, so we have more geometry. Then if I pull the vertex here and there, it starts to kind of crumble and starts to make it starts to get more shapes if you have a bit more geometry. You don't want to create a like useless, senseless noise. It's really easy as well if you have too many vertices there. But I was fairly happy with the stuff I was getting. And again, so easy, just move one vertex and get completely new design. It's like you can just create so many uh, pretty cool looking discs in no time. So right now I'm using the green material, metallic green. I departed from that later. I'll be using the silver and black later on. So I filled up that gap. I didn't like it. So I actually created a boolean, that outside boolean that would cut out any extra stuff that was happening. So you can see every time I go out of the tab, out of edit mode, everything else that's got outside the wheel got cut out because there's a boolean, just another cylinder on the outside on the rim that cuts out the any extra stuff that's spoken. There we go. I applied the black material. And I'm playing with bevel. So you can see there's a little bit of artifact that bevel creating, that assigning material to the corner. And I pick everything up. I press Ctrl L and I copy the modifiers to all the instances. Because instances they don't copy the modifiers, they only copy the polygons, essentially polygon position. There we go. I've got the silver, like it's essentially metal. I call it silver. And now I have even more variations because I have a combination of two materials, black and silver. just so easy to keep on building new designs. So I definitely started to like this a lot. Like now we're getting something quite cool and quite shiny. And I didn't mind to have messy topologies there. I didn't mind that vertices were overlapping with itself all the time, because end of the day, the idea was that I will have a topology on top, so I'll just retopologize the element which I really liked, and then just have a proper topology. Doing the ties, and I didn't really do the tie threads. I just like whatever, they're not really visible. Oh, right now they're visible, but later on I just put the rims on top, the arches on top that will hide in the wheel. I'm playing with ambient occlusion, amount of ambient occlusion, because it affects the look quite a bit. So yeah, playing with the disc is kind of fun because you can make designs so fast without pretty much any effort. But then it's also a trouble because it's just too easy to make too many. One of the things I like that when the stuff started to get overlap, like crazy overlap, there was some penetration of black material, like tiny penetration. So I was getting like little accents of black here and there. And since the like part of the disc is so low poly, I could always just pick a vertex out of. They only have like 20 vertices. I pick any vertex, and every vertex has its own kind of influence on the design. So I pick one vertex, move it around, and changes everything from a different perspective, different part of the view. Yeah, I have that inside cylinder, which then I didn't really use, but it was also, now we combine a couple shapes together. I have the inside part, the outside. Now is a bit more origami. This is kind of a cool design, but it's a little bit kind of old-fashioned. Something that maybe the black material on top looks more interesting, but still it looked a little bit too usual to something like I could have seen somewhere before. But I like this like crossing over and self-penetration of the parts of the polygons. And there we go. We have this little accent of the silver coming through because of the self-penetration. I'm just doing that little kind of bold cover. Later I would put the logo there, but that's using the type tool in the second part of the videos. I was fairly happy with that design for the time being. And again, it's better at one point just to let it go and move on to something else, and not to spend too much time on the disc. So actually, I was doing this car a little bit like for like 3 days, maybe a couple hours each day, and I would know that I need to leave it and just think about it next day. Uh, by the way, I really like the black color, but the black color for the vehicle looks cool. However, it hides the design, so no, I can't really have it. I think here, I don't know, I'm just trying to see if I made the vehicle longer or not. Definitely just duplicated the wheels, put them to the back, just playing with the materials for the capsule. And I uncovered my old lights from the backup folder, actually from the lights collection. They were hidden there, and I decided to put them at the bottom. Before at the beginning, if you remember, they were at the top, but now they are at the bottom. Oh, kind of like, yeah, they were kind of middle top. So now I'm doing the rims. So what I did, I'm using the 32 divisions on the cylinder, and then it's really easy to align that because I don't have that many divisions. You can do it hand by hand. You can do it hand by hand, uh, and then just use the snap into the edge and snap the vertices to the existing line. There you go. Pretty easy. Just snap each vertex along the line, along the edge. And here we have this kind of penetration of shapes, which we have visible seams on the mesh. I try to look through them um, while I do it, and even the final model has a lot of those shading issues that are really quite visible. But I know that it will look only better once it's been retopologized or put into a CAD model. There'll be a much better like transitions. So I just need to get the rough shape, rough idea, rough understanding of that. So here deleted the bottom parts, but then I changed my mind and I undid that. I used the Boolean operation to cut out the bottom. I really don't want to touch this circle. I really don't want to touch that rim circle around that cylinder. And I didn't delete any of those bits. playing around with the back shape, so definitely spent a fair amount of time on the back. And I think the back turned out to be pretty cool, even probably better than the front. Maybe because I just wasn't like constrained doing the back, so I was just throwing some ideas there. With the front, I was trying to make it a bit more correct. So you can see here I'm created a boolean at the floor that will cut out the bottom of the rim of that of the fender. And I'm using I've created this transparent material for all the boolean shapes that I have. So just assign a transparent material to the boolean shapes. So I'm trying to snap that fender to the front bumper. And just remove that part, just deleted the part of the body. And I introduced extra edge loop, which I usually try to do to be quite cautious about introducing some edge loops on big parts of the vehicle, because then they can make everything much harder. And the front triangle is essentially just a floating piece of mesh. It hasn't been attached to anything. And I finally detached the winglets and put them, aside. So the winglets, they will be connected through the fender down, so there'll be a gap there. So I specifically left that black gap there, where they will attach to the bottom through the body below. I'm doing some cleanups here. I didn't like that stuff was poking around, so I just wanted to remove it. So there's no unnecessary mesh penetration. Playing with the bevel values. And moving the triangle to see if I can have more interesting lights, maybe. Just snap in the middle edge loop to the body shape. And again, snap in the front fender to the middle body. And I did cut it later. Just the bottom part of the fender didn't need to be there because that but inlet is kind of already there for aerodynamic purpose of getting the wheel air from the wheel. And I just deleted some parts of the body. So later, the original body became all fragmented, broken to parts and pieces, which I kept. It became quite messy to read actually, because now I look at this and I'm like, what's going on? Like I was actually losing the track of because that has been kind of pushed, vertices been pushed around and overlapped sometimes, so it was becoming a bit hard to deal with this. Trying to snap it a little bit better. You can little clean up the body, then remove it, and sometimes it gets deleted too much. Yeah, that connection between the like back fender and the middle of the body was always caused me a lot of trouble. You'll see pretty much you'll see how the back fender was done in the second video. And this first time I've started to play with the color. Sometimes I can get carried away, just keep changing colors. Look at that. It's not a bad idea to change the color because it changes the mood a lot and it can give you some different clues how to play with the design. But I felt like the green was really perfect and other colors weren't really great. Again, playing here with the triangle, trying to make it maybe, or thinking maybe breaking it down, making it more aggressive would be interesting. I even did this extrusion in the end, but end of the day, I felt I didn't want to overcomplicate the shape. I like it. I like the simplicity of the front triangle. But it's kind of power of Blender that I can do this pretty big changes on the fly and in the middle of the process and see how it affects the whole design in 3D, right? It would take a lot more time to trying to draw that and redrawing that. Well, it depends on the skill, but I'm definitely not that good at drawing vehicles, so Blender is my only way. I think the only color combination I liked was black. I'm making like a matte black with little accents of green. That would have been interesting. I could try that for the renders. It's always tempting to also, once I have the design ready, to go and start playing with the like some patterns on top and throw in some design, just graphic design on top. But it starts to break with the shape and uh, makes it makes it harder for the person who is seeing the design the first time to understand the shape. So what I wanted to do here, I wanted to introduce some arrays. I wanted repetition and grids to the design. So I have it here, for example, and I couldn't have too much control over it, so created the Boolean shape to cut the array out. And I created a whole bunch of collections for Booleans. So I didn't put Booleans into one collection. I didn't want them interact with each other too much. So now I can play with the array positioning, and you can see how I do it on the right. Just But at this stage, it started to look a bit like Audi. Some like Audi concepts I've seen and some of the vehicles. So I really don't want anybody to come in and say, "Oh, it looks like Audi." Like I mean, like it, now I want to look at for fairly original, my own. I don't want to put a logo of Audi on top because I don't want. I'm not looking for a job there, so I don't want to give like free advertising to Audi. I want to put my own brand there, and you'll see it later. But it was an attempt, so to see how it looks, and you can see here I have a mix of two materials, right? I have matte black and orange. So essentially, I have solidify a modifier on top, and a solidify modifier you can go into the material tab and play around when your second material start to show up. And it's super handy to have this non-destructive pipeline, and that like with arrays again, it's like so easy to do this. Like I cannot do that in Maya, like it's just impossible. No. So trying to do this intake in the back. I'm always using the constant of offset for the arrays, because if you use relative offset and then you start to change the shape of the polygon, the original polygonal shape, it starts to really go out of whack. So I'm always only using constant offset. Yeah, the EV and the cycles didn't really give me much of a difference. EV is pretty good when material is like metals, so cycles not that great. So here there's a little bit of a jump, uh, um, and then I'm doing the front grille. The front grille I kept it, but the side grills I didn't. So I just I ended up reconstructing that little triangle. Having the front grille, but kind of making it next to invisible, really, because I made it much darker. I removed that green color in because it was adding too much of a visual noise. And kind of tacked it inside, so it wasn't going outside, it was just tacked. Didn't have the you didn't want to have a overpowering grill in front. It's kind of almost a bit of a cheat. It's like too easy to do it. So for me, it starts to look too cheap. So I wanted to hide it a little bit. But I definitely want to play with the erase and repetition of elements in your in your design. Just playing with the distance and all that stuff. You can see just tweaking elements, moving them from place to place, and evaluating the shapes all the time. Playing with the lights. Doing just like a kind of underneath spot in the middle. And here, talking about material layering, right? So we have the green material, we have the LED lights, with also a design element material, and then another skinny layers of green metal. And we have the grid, really important. Making this whole light longer and making the shape of it more complicated, right? So I have like skinny light, some places a bit skinny, and some places no, kind of covered by the black elements. And this is about it for the first part. And join me for the second part. We'll finish the vehicle coming soon. So let's see you in the next video.